Well, the Foreign Minister has been visiting China and is in Japan, and I spoke to him a short time ago from Tokyo. Senator Carr, welcome.
Thank you, Chris.
Well, as you know, James Ashby has lodged a complaint of sexual harassment against his employer, the Speaker, Peter Slipper. Do you regret saying that Ashby seems more rehearsed than a kabuki actor?
No, not at all. I think precisely because sexual harassment is so serious, it should not become a political plaything or a political football. This seems to have been filtered well and truly through the political process. I think it would have been far better for all concerned if it had been presented cleanly to the proper authorities without all the meetings that have taken place in the halls of Parliament.
Well, he's made a complaint against you to the Human Rights Commission, saying that what you did to him was victimisation, and that is a breach of the Sex Discrimination Act.
Chris, I think in Australia and around the world there are a lot more serious cases of infringement of human rights than this. Let me say again, sexual harassment is serious precisely because of that. If there is a complaint, take it to the authorities. Don't have a meeting with your employer's political opponent on 3 occasions. Don't talk on 3 occasions and through emails with the opposition's chief attack dog, or have a telephone call with the deputy leader of the Liberal Party. Let's keep it clean and lodge a complaint and see that it's heard in the proper way, not filtered through politics.
Well, finally on this then, his lawyers note that Australian politicians have a responsibility to promote the successful operation of legislation designed to curtail sexual harassment, not to actively undermine it. That's a fair point, isn't it?
That only underlines my point. Don't take it into the political arena. A case of sexual harassment belongs with the proper authorities. Don't go off to your boss's political opponent on 3 occasions, or to the attack dog of the opposition. I mean, this is occurring on the very day when it's been confirmed that Christopher Pyne had hitherto denied email contact after his meeting with Mr Ashby. Listen, keep it fair dinkum, go to the authorities, don't make it a political plaything.
All right, now you're in Japan, you have come from China, and a lot has been written and said about the reinvigoration of the military relationship between Australia and the United States and how China might react to that. I know that earlier, when Kevin Rudd was Foreign Minister, he said that it was our business that we had that kind of relationship with the United States. Is that the way you spoke about it to the Chinese?
No, I'd take it in a different way. I think the Chinese are friends. We have a candid relationship. I think they're absolutely entitled to say, in that context, we note that you've got closer defence cooperation with the United States. We have a different view of the region, and we take issue with that. And it was in that spirit that it was raised with me by Foreign Minister Young. And I think that is altogether legitimate. 2 other Chinese leaders raised with me in less specific or emphatic terms the question as they see it of Australia's closer defence ties with the United States. And I just see that as confirmation that we've got a relaxed, candid conversation running at any moment with our Chinese friends.
Well, what did the Chinese Foreign Minister mean then when he pointed out that the time for Cold War alliances has long since passed?
I think he is registering a different view of the region than one we share with our American friends. And he wasn't being specific, but I interpreted it as being very much a reference to the rotating marine presence in Northern Australia, not an American base. We don't have American bases on Australian soil, but for part of the year, American training and exercises of no more than 2,500 Marines. It's not such a big deal. Last year, we had 14,000 American troops training on Australian soil. It happens every 2 years. This level of cooperation between us and the Americans is not unusual, and I explained to our Chinese friends that support for the American alliance resides very deep in the Australian view of the region, indeed in our character as a people.
One of the things that disturbs China's neighbours, though, is its claims over all of the South China Sea. Did you raise that with the Chinese and the concerns that the neighbours have?
No, but they raised it with me. They pointed out that Australia, that I in fact had said we believe in freedom of navigation in these seas. I reminded them that Australia has never taken a stand on the competing territorial claims. For example, the claims that put China at issue with the Philippines or China at issue with Vietnam. Brunei, I think, is in the same category. We don't take a stand on that. All we do is assert the importance of the sea to us. About 60% of our exports pass through that sea, and to assert that we want it resolved in the context of international law, the international law of the sea, and we want it resolved peacefully. I think the Chinese accepted that that was our position. It's certainly not an issue between us and them.
Was China concerned at all about the fact that its telecommunications company Huawei has been cut out of building the national broadband network?
I think it's indisputable that China is concerned about this and objects to the decision we made. My position with my Chinese interlocutors is that this decision was made on security grounds, and that a government is entitled to make a decision on national broadband infrastructure based on the security and the resilience of that infrastructure. And that's the position we made. I don't think any other country in the world would have made a different decision in the circumstances. And I'd like to think that on the bottom line, after due consideration, the Chinese would accept this.
Has the possibility of the Greek exit from the euro figured at all in your discussions with the Chinese?
Yes, it has. The Chinese are very concerned about political and resultant economic instability in Europe. Their economy has had a quarter of lower than expected economic growth, but that's not a bad thing given the impressive performance of Chinese growth. And given the goal of containing inflation, it has a positive side. Nonetheless, they did ask for cooperation from Australia at the forthcoming G20 summit to see that we persuade, Australia and China working together, persuade the rest of the world's leading economies to make a commitment for growth. They are concerned that what's happening in Europe represents a threat to continued growth. And again, this emphasises the fact that whatever issues at this moment cause Australia and China to have a robust exchange from opposite viewpoints, we've got a vastly bigger agenda where we are on the same side.
And finally, we've focused on China and not Japan because you haven't had really any of your formal meetings yet with the Japanese. But what message are you taking to them? I know that there was a lot of concern in Japan for quite some time that Australia had become very Sino-focused and Japan had suffered because of that.
Yeah, well, that was why it was very important for me to come to Japan after my first visit to China. And it's to give a message of reassurance, and that is that China, important to us economically, is not a distraction from our relationship with Japan. Japan is a trusted friend, and there is a high level of cooperation. I think the Japanese appreciate having that continuity emphasised and affirmed, which is what I've been doing.
Bob Carr, thank you.
Thank you, Chris.